combination of his DNA was unique. Boom. Will there be another Moses? Will there be another Gandhi? Will there be another Mother Teresa? And my answer is no, because their DNA was so unique that they could only create one. And so now whose work is it? It's our work. And so when we think about our DNA and we think about the things that we accomplish, how many of yous will there be? One. So our work, the work in changing the world, the work in being advocates, the work in, it's so funny to me. I don't know if you guys have been following the 99%. Have you been following those folks, the folks that are sitting in and boycotting and that kind of stuff? That stuff is so cute. Because if they really want to change, you know what they could do, or if we really want to change, and we'll talk more about this a little bit later. They wanted to change what's happening at Neiman Marcus or some of the big banks and that kind of stuff. What do you think they could do to really make change? Pull your money out. Stop buying X, Y, and Z. We did it with New Coke. Right? So once we stop participating in these systems, now, one of the things that people, and it's so funny because we are freedom fighters and we're fighting domestic violence and we're fighting all of this stuff, but we allow TV to fight against us. We allow that. Every time American Girl or American Apparel, that, and there was somebody else who did this, where they had these bikinis for 7-year-olds that were padded. How many of you wrote a letter? You don't have to raise your hand. It's a rhetorical question. How many of us saw it and said, "Oh, that's disgusting," and that's where it stopped? The world is in the condition that it's in because we allow it to be so. Which also means if we've allowed it to be so, we can do what about it? We can change it. Part of the system that we're operating in has tricked us into thinking that our vote doesn't count, that our decisions don't count, that I'm just one person, I'm a small person, when in fact there will only be one you, and you are the most powerful you can possibly be. We'll get into other stuff later. I felt like I was getting a little preachy, so we'll talk a little bit about our presentation. So we'll talk about cultural competence and why we need it. I have it on cultural competence on a need-to-know basis because you need to know. Okay. So we'll continue. The purpose is to provide an understanding of an appreciation for cultural competence and how to increase people's discretionary effort that is affecting people in their home, at work, and at play. And we'll talk about discretionary effort because that's extremely important. So before we start that, I'm going to play this video. Sorry. Many of you have seen this video. it's clear that there's a lot of stuff going on in this particular clip. But what is it that you notice? What do you notice about what's going on in this clip?
How smart that kid is.
How smart the kid is. All right, so the kid is really smart. What else? That the dog is loyal, right? To me, the dog is funnier than the kid, right? What else do you notice? What else do you notice?
Screaming only does any good when somebody's listening.
Okay, so screaming only does any good when someone's listening. All right, cool. Yes, ma'am.
Even then, it really doesn't do a whole lot.
Even then, it doesn't do a whole lot. Okay. When you do things only for the reaction, it doesn't get you anywhere. All right, cool. So that's what we've noticed. But why do you think the child is exhibiting this behavior? Why is he doing this?
Must have worked in the past.
Because it's worked in the past. Which means what? So it's worked in the past, given a new situation that's very similar to something that's worked in the past, I can make the assumption that it will work when? Now. So I make the assumption that it's worked in the past, which means that it's likely to work now, which also means it's likely to work when? In the future. So it worked in the past, I can assume it'll work in the present, which means I can assume that it'll work in the future. Now, what's the problem with this line of thinking? What's that? Things change. Okay. You'll get what you've always got. Is his behavior working now? No. How do you know? All right, so he gets no response. What else? How do you know it's not working? He continues to do it, so he's going to keep doing it because he knows that in the past, first of all, is this his first time doing this, do you think? No, probably not his first time. Second time? Right? So he's done this over and over again because it's worked, and so he'll keep doing it until when?
Until it doesn't work anymore.
Until it's not working now. How come he's not stopping?
He didn't get the response he wanted.
He didn't get the response that he wanted. Okay. Until when?
Well, I'm saying he's determined.
He's determined because he knows what? That it's worked in the past. So, you know that this isn't working. The parents know this isn't working. The dog knows that this isn't working. But who fails to realize that this kind of behavior is not working? The child. So when will the child change his behavior in terms of trying to get some attention, in terms of trying to get a response? When will he change his behavior?
When it's repeated enough. But I was going to say, like, he is under the impression that it will work because it's been allowed to work for so long. So technically, like, that's not his fault.
But when,
Wait a minute.
well, we'll get to fault in just a minute. But when will he change his behavior?
He realized
Once he realizes that it's not working. Right? So one of the things that as helpers that we have to encourage people is we may want people to change. And typically as helpers, we want them to change oftentimes more than they want to change. And so sometimes we get frustrated because we can see a destiny for people that they can't see for themselves. But that destiny can never be realized until when? Until they realize it. So what that means for us is that we keep helping when it no longer makes sense to help. Because at some point, they may realize that they can have a different kind of life. But if we give up on them, what happens to that opportunity, that chance? It goes away. All right? So part of our job is to hold up for folks